Welcome to the Big Book Roundtable and the RICO 12 family of recovery resources targeted at people from all backgrounds, faiths, and places dealing with addictions of all varieties. RICO 12 is also a resource for the loved ones of addicts. I'm Justin B., and a child of an all-loving, all-powerful God and a multidisciplinary addict living in the miraculous recovery that is promised in the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and I'm blessed to be the moderator of this roundtable. I'm joined today by David G. and Nikki M., and we're excited to be here and read and swim through the Big Book with you. We'll start off right now getting you two introduced. David, if you wouldn't mind introducing yourself a little bit and tell us what your favorite color is and why.
All right, Justin. Thank you very much. My name is David Green. I am an alcoholic and I'm an addict of many sorts from Oklahoma in the USA. Very grateful for a recovery date of August 8th, 1994 in Alcoholics Anonymous, and an emotional recovery and sobriety date and SA of October 1st of 2019. My favorite color is purple, and that is a tribal color that, I am a Choctaw Indian of the Native American family here in Oklahoma. And that is one of our tribal colors, and I've just always loved the color purple. So that would be my color and the reason why. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, David, for sharing that. And purple's a really cool color. All right. Nikki, introduce yourself. Same question. Favorite color and why?
Hi, I'm Nikki M., and I'm a grateful member of many fellowships. And I'm actually grateful to be here. Really, the most important thing is this is a fun question because I'm getting to know you guys more. My favorite color currently is green. It used to be red because I always wear red lipstick, but now it's green. Why? I love nature. I find God in every shade of green out there. I mean, I live in a 4-season country. I live in Toronto, Canada. So soon all our leaves are going to change colors. But when it's green, you should see my backyard. It's a forest in a major city, beyond blessed. Green excites me and it gives me life. Varieties of green too. There's that winter evergreen. Then there's that summer green. And if you've ever seen spring when you've had a long six months winter, that vibrant lime green, it's just awesome. Thank you for this. We're like on a dating app here. I love this. I'm getting to know you guys.
Awesome, Nikki. And I'll share my favorite color and why too. And it's silly, but it's basically that lime green that you were just talking about, Nikki. I call it chartreuse. And the reason I call it chartreuse is because it's a funny name. It's a funny word. It's also a great color for a fishing lure. I love fishing. But mainly that would be like if I was ever kidnapped and my family needed a proof of life, that would be the word I use is chartreuse because it just is. So anyways, love the color chartreuse and love the word chartreuse too. All right. Today, I'm excited to get back into the reading here. We're going to be moving forward. We finished up the foreword to the second edition last time we met together. And today we're going to read through the foreword to the third edition. It's only 1 page long. So we'll cover it all today. I'm excited to get into this and then move forward from there. So the foreword to the third edition, I will start reading now. Here we go. By March, by the way, this is on page XXII, Roman numeral 22. Okay, here we go. By March of 1976, when this edition went to the printer, the total worldwide membership of Alcoholics Anonymous was conservatively estimated at more than 1 million, with almost 28,000 groups meeting in over 90 countries. Surveys of groups in the United States and Canada indicate that AA is reaching out not only to more and more people, but to a wider and wider range. Women now make up more than 1/4 of the membership. Among newer members, the proportion is nearly 1/3. 7% of AAs surveyed are less than 30 years of age, among them many in their teens. The basic principles of the AA program, it appears, hold good for individuals with many different lifestyles, just as the program has brought recovery to those of many different nationalities. The 12 steps that summarize the program may be called Los 12 Pasos in one country and Les 12 Étapes in another. But they trace exactly the same path to recovery that was blazed by the earliest members of Alcoholics Anonymous. In spite of the great increase in the size and the span of this fellowship, at its core it remains simple and personal. Each day, somewhere in the world, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another alcoholic, sharing experience, strength, and hope. All right. So as we read through that third edition, I'm excited to get into this. You know, initially when I first read through this the first time in my life, as I read through it, I kind of just skipped through it. I was like, okay, great. It's just some geographics, some numbers, some whatever. But I think there's a lot more to it now, and I'm excited to get into that. So, David, why don't you lead us off and share with us a little bit of your insights and takeaways from this reading today?
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. Thank you. Thank you for your service, and thank you, Nikki, as well, for being here. This is the edition I sobered up on in 1994, and it's just a wonderful book. Like we had talked about in the last one, you know, the first 164 pages never change. You know, they've added another edition since I got sober in 94, but this third edition, man, do I see the hand of God in this, just right here in the first few sentences of the book. 1 million, with almost 28,000 groups meeting in over 90 countries. And I think it may even be more than that now. But there's a question in here in this next sentence for me. Surveys of groups in the US and Canada indicate that AA is reaching out. That should be a question. What's that look like for me in my life? Am I reaching out to more and more? I can promise you that I drove 20 hours to and fro to hold a weekend book study that started on Friday evening, all day yesterday, part of this morning, drove all the way home. Next weekend, I've been invited back there to speak at a group anniversary. I continually work with other addicts. You know, that stuff's all good, and I love doing that, and I love doing this. But my favorite part of this is sitting down one-on-one with another addict alcoholic and walking through the process of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous and watching him awaken for himself, as we will see as we move on through this. But it's also good to see a whole group do that when reading the book, and they've read the book for a long time, and they're really beginning to dig in now and see what it says. So when that question asks, AA is reaching out, you know, my question that I have written on the top of that is, am I? Not only to more and more people, but to a wider and wider range. Now, because of Zoom and the pandemic and a couple of years ago, I've now been able to bring this message pretty much all over the world. I've sponsored a lot of people in Asia, the UK, Canada, different places, watching them come through this process and then pass it on to other people. Women make up 1/4. I've taken a couple of women through this process, and now they share that with other women as well. And just to follow along with what it's saying there, you know, it talks about the percentage rate of 30 years of age, and among them, many in their teens. We're seeing a lot of people begin to awaken. Had a young man from Oklahoma City area call me that is afflicted with a very serious condition in this illness. And I'm not going to say much about his story, but he reached out to me. And one of the things I always ask is, how old are you? And he was 18 years old, and he's already dying from this, you know. And I said, do you have a Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous? He said, I never heard of it. I said, you just did. You might ought to get one before you call me back. I've set him down, began to put him through the process of the book. He's doing very well. Many in their teens that are dying from this, but many can recover also. There's some pretty powerful stuff in this next couple, and I'm not going to take up a lot of time. I want to hear Miss Nikki and yourself, Justin, but the basic principles, the 12 steps of the AA, which are the AA program. It appears hold good for individuals with many different lifestyles, not just, I mean, we see Al-Anon, we see S-Anon, we see all of these different programs, OA, EA, all of these different. I think the greatest gift that we ever give them, and the greatest amends that we've ever been able to make to other fellowships, is we give them our steps and we give them our book. But like it says toward the end of that paragraph, it's going to trace exactly the same path to recovery. It's not just talking about sobriety there. We're talking about recovery that was blazed by the earlier members of AA. This was a very powerful aha moment for me. I was reading this last paragraph one time, and it says, in spite of the great increase, the size and the span of the fellowship, at its core, it remains simple and personal. Each day in the world, recovery, keyword here, begins. when one alcoholic or an addict talks with another, sharing experience, strength, and hope. And I always thought my recovery began when I got up and prayed and did what was on page 86 that morning. I felt like that was when recovery began for me. I felt like it was, if I went to me or done this or that. Now, all of those things strengthen my relationship with a power greater than myself. Therefore, it definitely aids sobriety. But my book tells me right here, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another, not any of that other stuff. Now, that other stuff is very helpful, but this is where it all began, and this is where it continues to begin each day. That's what it says, each day. So it was like, wow, for the first time I seen that. And it changed everything, because my wife is a recovering alcoholic that has more than 20 years in the program, way more than 20 years now, and is very good, very solid in the Big Book as well. And so that begins for me first thing in the morning, because I talk to her. So it definitely, it was definitely an eye opener whenever I read it and was able to see it in that light. So thank you for letting me share, Justin. I'm very glad to be here.
Thank you, David. And my mind is blown. That's going to be my takeaway. I'm going to get back to that here in a few minutes, but I want to hear what Nikki's got to say here about the foreword to the third edition. Nikki, what are your thoughts as we read through that?
Well, thank you, Justin. And gosh, David does such a great job. I can listen to him all night. And my line out right here says, where it says worldwide membership, my sponsor, when we finished, going through the 12 steps, he said, go create your own 100. In the next couple of pages, we're going to read, and David just talked about the first 100. So I am to go, my line out, a worldwide membership. Nikki, go and create your own 100. Well, and as you know, Justin, like tomorrow morning at Noodle, we'll have over 150 people on there. That's our normal turnout from all over the world. I mean, these people zoom in, and we're online. They zoom in from all over the world. And it's a wider and wider range. And my line out says alcoholism, because we just read on the previous, alcoholism or alcohol is a respecter of no one. So to me, this is all inclusive, never exclusive, is what the book talks about. And it's good for individuals. That's me. I don't have to pick up a drink. It's for everybody. I know we have all these, there's, I think, 300 different fellowships, but in my experience, there needs to only be one AA. There's only one fellowship, because it says it will solve all our problems. And so, like my line out again, it's like all are welcome, many different nationalities, like all are welcome. Page 46 talks about it. Never exclusive, always inclusive, as long as we're seeking God. And so, David just said it, each day, my line out. I never get a day off here. I thought I could, I don't get a day off. And actually, when I'm not talking one-on-one with another alcoholic, I have to be very mindful, because I'm just representing the Big Book where I am and what I'm doing. I don't wake up next to, when I was in Luxembourg just now, my boyfriend, I mean, if you ask me, everyone qualifies, because any life run on self-will can hardly be a success, is what our book says. But, he doesn't know this language, but I'll talk to him about my Big Book. And you know what this guy told me? You guys are going to love this. I said, well, page 77 of my Big Book says I need to serve people. So when I'm getting crazy there and I'm like, you go cut your own carrots, he's like, what does page 77 say, Nikki? So I get up, I serve, and I peel those carrots. So be careful who you talk to Big Book to, because they might remember and just hold you accountable. I love this. And I have to share my experience, strength, and hope, not just how I get off my drug of non-choices. I've been corrected recently, but how I recover every day, how I live a life of happy joy and freedom, one day at a time. So I'm just excited. It's all here. Oh, one more note too. I circled exactly. See, I can't really change this thing up where it says trace exactly the same path. It's exactly, why am I adding things in? Why am we change up the Big Book to personalize it, but these are exact instructions. So it's like when people give me suggestions, it's like, can you tell me what page that's on? That may be your experience, strength, and hope, but when they're telling me things that I know aren't right, just take me to the book, or why are your lips moving? Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you, David. One thing that I want to note here, and I think I'm right on this, by the time the third edition was published, both of the original founders of AA had passed by then, and the movement continued on. It didn't die with the founders, and it continues to grow and flourish today. And I love that continues to happen. Nikki, you mentioned that your boyfriend would say, "Hey, what does page 77 say?" I was that person. So my wife went into the rooms 8 years before I did because of me. She went into the Anon rooms because of my addiction. I was not willing to do anything about it. But she would share with me. She would talk recovery with me, and she'd talk about, inventory. She'd talk about character defects and all these kinds of things. And I would turn those things on her and say, "Hey, you need to work on that." And the first couple of years that did not go over well. And then she finally just said, "Hey, this is you. I'm going to do me. You do you." And eventually it came around to, well, hopefully I don't do that very often anymore, but, love this. Such good stuff in here. Thank you too for jumping out at that. And that each day somewhere in the world, recovery begins when one alcoholic talks with another alcoholic, sharing experience, strength, and hope. This is my take. This is what jumped out at me, especially after David said that. And this is by sheer happenstance. I didn't do this because of this, but within the first 40 minutes of each day, I have a scheduled call with a sponsee at 5:30 in the morning, every morning. And that is something that I didn't realize. In fact, some mornings I'm like, again, 5:30. But it's my recovery begins then. And as I look back at it through that filter, through that angle, I can see that, yes, I've already connected with God. I've already done some prayer and meditation. I've already done those things by the time that call happens. But that's when the energy hits. That's when the recovery hits. That's when the momentum happens. What a beautiful thing and a beautiful concept. Thank you for pointing that out, David, and doing that. Let's jump in. I've got a couple of questions here. David, you talked about speaking with somebody here recently that's like 18 years old and dying from their disease. And I see that in my own fellowships also. People are coming in younger and younger, but I'm having a hard time with that, and not because I'm prejudiced against it, but it's because I don't know that they've hit bottom, and I guess I'm judging that. Tell me a little bit of your experience with that, David. Tell us about the younger generation coming in and how we can maybe help them, even though maybe their bottom isn't as low as it may need to be, and it might be. But go ahead and share your thoughts on that.
Yeah, absolutely, Justin. I think that self and the manifestation of the disease really doesn't care how old you are, what color you are, where you're from, how much money you earn or don't. We're going to see that in the book as we move forward for sure. One of the things that I do, especially with young people, is there has to be absolute willingness to turn from that and to do what we do here, or I just don't even fool with it. And it's not because I don't love them. I don't want to see them get better. It's just my book tells me very specifically in the interview process on page 90, which I do with every person before I sponsor. I used to just say, "Okay, I'm your sponsor, let's go." I don't do that anymore. Our book is laid out very specifically on what we should do prior to working with a man, whether he's 18 or however old he is. And just for a quick minute, if you'll flip to page 90 in your book, it says, when you discover a prospect for whatever anonymous, this doesn't matter his age, find out all you can about him. That's the first thing. How old are you? Where do you live? Where are you from? How long have you been there? Are you married? Do you have children? Are you still in school? If he's that young, I want to know all I can about him. But here it is. If you don't want to stop drinking or doing whatever you do, I'm not going to waste time with you. And I just make that very clear from day one. And the reason why is not because I don't like you. I don't love you. I may spoil a later opportunity to help you. This advice is given for the family also. They say we don't give advice here. Yeah, we do. If we recovered, we worked through this step in this process, and we've had a transformation, I absolutely have advice to share. They should be patient and realize they're dealing with a sick person. I need to be patient, realizing that I'm dealing with one, because I'm the one, if I agree to this after this interview process, I'll be the one taking him through the work. there's any indication he wants to stop, talk to a good person, most interested, his wife, his mom, whatever. I don't do that. I stay away from that. But I do this. Get an idea of his behavior. See, I don't want to know about his drinking. I don't care about his drug. And I want an idea of your behavior. And this is before you ever drink or drug, because this is what's killing us. Self. It manifests through my behaviors. I want to know about your problems. I want to know about your background. Where are you from? All of this stuff. What has your problems been? Tell me all about them, because we can always back it up to the behaviors and see where that began from pre-trauma and how self was manifested. Religious leanings, what's your faith? What's your faith tradition here? I really want to know. And the whole time this man is telling me this, no matter what age he is, it's just like this last sentence says, I need this information. He's telling me how to sponsor him this entire time that I'm doing this. And so at the end of that, I always tell him, I didn't ask you all these questions to get into your business. I did it because if I was sitting across the table, this is what I would want to hear from you. So I do exactly what our book says on page 90, no matter the age. And I encourage you, Miss Nikki, on that part on page 77, where it says that, we're to help other people. It says we are to fit ourselves. So I tell him once in a while, hey, I'm still being fit. So peel your own carrots tonight. Okay. Anyway, thank you, guys. Good to be here.
Oh, that's hilarious. And thank you, David. That was awesome. Peel your own carrots tonight. I'm fitting myself. Love it. Love it. Nikki, one of the things that was brought up earlier in this conversation, I think it was David that actually said it, but I want to ask you this question. Sobriety versus recovery, abstinence versus sobriety versus recovery. What's the difference, and why is it important that we make a differentiation, and how can we work through that in this exactly the same path to recovery?
Okay, that's a great question, because while I was away, I haven't been in contact with all my sponsees, and I had contacted one, said, I have a guy I'm going to send you. I can't take him through. You can take him. And I said, how are you doing? He says, well, Nikki, at least I'm sober. And I said, well, you're sober, but you're not happy, joyous, and free. It sounds like you're a little bit of page 52. That's how I describe it. Like, are you sober, or are you with the promises? You're having trouble with personal relationships, you told me, but you're sober. You can't control your emotional natures, but you're sober. You're prey to misery and depression, aka self-obsession, but you're sober. You understand? Sober, sobriety, you're just not drinking. What does it look like to be recovered? It looks like the promises. You're at page 75, perfect peace and ease alone. Your financial fears have fallen from you. You're recoiling from not just alcohol and drugs, but your need to be right. Your discipline, page 88. Nikki, I'm sober. Well, are you sponsoring? That's the next thing. You're sober, but are you helping someone? Because, my book's falling apart, but that part that we just read, here it is. It's like we're supposed to, that's where exactly what David said. That's where recovery begins, when you are working one-on-one with another addict. So a lot of the time people are in sobriety, what I like to call, and, being sober, white knuckling it at they're on literally living. It's page 152, where they can't imagine life with or without it. They may not be contemplating suicide every day, but he isn't happy about his sobriety, and they'll be up the jumping off place. That's not what the book promises. It promises miracles. It promises being reborn. It promises, so much. This book is filled with promises. So that's what recovery looks like for me. Purpose. And I got to remember that key word, fit myself into. You guys are just really stretching me. I love this.
Thank you, Nikki. And I'm going to comment on one part of this that really jumps out at me today. Let's see, the 12 steps that summarize the program may be called Los 12 Pasos in one country, Les 12 Étapes in another. My French is brutal, but I love these projects that my higher power is dragging me into, sometimes excitedly and sometimes kicking and screaming, not wanting to do it. But I love it because I'm able to interact with people from all over the world. I love the international expansion that has happened with, as much as I hated and hate COVID and that whole epic of of existence the last few years, man, has it expanded my opportunity to learn from others and to share the message with others. That's been a miracle. It's been, I see the hand of God in that, as bad as things were and can be from the fear that came over the earth. Man, the opportunity to share my experience, strength, and hope with many has expanded greatly. And I'm grateful for that. And the line there, they trace exactly the same path to recovery that was blazed by the earliest members of Alcoholics Anonymous. And I sure try and walk that same path too. All right, let's jump over just a little bit here and do a little wrap up. David, why don't you take just a minute and wrap up what your thoughts are from our conversation today? What's a takeaway you had?
Well, I think that I take away just the experience that you two share with me here, with the way that this book continues to speak to me over and over and over through yourselves and other people. And, I just take away a lot of gratitude, and I'm more humble today than I probably ever have been in my recovery. A lot of people in Texas were telling me, oh, we just love how you teach the book. And I don't like that word. I don't like the word teach. I don't, or teacher. But really, whenever I think about it, sharing experience, strength, and hope, just like it talked about at the very last 4 words there, 4 or 5 words at the bottom of that page. I think if you're not doing that, or if you don't have the passion to do that, you've missed something here. I just feel that way. But what I take away from this is, whether it's the 3rd edition, 4th edition, 1st or 2nd, whatever, the message is going to be the same. We die to self and we live in the presence of an all-loving God, and we recover here. Not just get sober, recover, not from alcohol, not from drugs, not from lust, sex, food, whatever it may be. I mean, if we want relief from that, just don't do it. But I have to recover from the things that drive me to do that. And that's what it's saying here. Each day in the world, recovery. And for me, that's what it's taught. That stuff, that's what begins whenever I talk with another, sharing experience, strength, and hope. So that was my takeaway in our conversation and what we did here today. So thank you, Justin. Thank you, Nikki.
Thanks, David. All right, Nikki, how about you? What's your takeaway from our conversation today?
Well, my takeaway right now is this 3rd paragraph: the basic principles of the AA program are good for individuals, full stop. And it's like, we're demonstrating those principles right now. Exactly what David said, the humility. I'm getting more humble because I think I know everything and I know nothing. Being respectful, listening to you both. I wouldn't, I'm not going to tell you guys, I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm practicing the principles of respectfulness. I'm really interested. I'm into you, intimacy, into what you're saying. I'm filled with gratitude. We're being helpful here. We're recording these so some of our, so our fellows can have this when they're walking through the park, looking at the purple sunset and the green, and the green leaves. We're all getting honest with each other, strangers getting honest. We're loving each other. We're being active. David, I know those drives. I had to do one recently from Italy to Luxembourg, and our relationship barely survived. So, God bless you for driving that like back and forth, doing this service. We're active. We're patient. We're being responsible, finding times that work for all of us, trusting the process, and being kind. And I keep getting praise from you guys. You guys are praising the good in me, and I want to praise the good in both of you. So we're exercising these basic principles right now, and that's my takeaway. I've got to do that with everyone, not just the people I like, but the people I don't like too. I like you guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Nikki. I'm sure I speak for David here. We like you too. All right. My takeaway, and this has been something that's been on my mind a lot lately. And it's that, it's it's this principle, and David, you put words to it in your wrap up: dying to self. Every day is a new day where I can make the choice to become a new Justin, a Justin that's a little bit more like the Justin that I aspire, that I believe God, my higher power, sees me as. I take a little bit step. I can make the choice to be a little bit more like that Justin. And it's walking that same path to recovery. And each day is a day when I can re-begin, like a rebirth, I guess. Die to self and be reborn. I love the last line of the prayer of St. Francis. It is by dying that we awaken to eternal life. I think that's what it is. So anyways, that's my takeaway. Thank you both for your time in this conversation. I'm getting so much out of these things. And thank you all in the listening audience for joining with us. To learn more about RICO 12 and these projects that each of us are working on, David and Nikki, go to rico12.com, look in the show notes of the podcast, and come join with us as we trudge this happy road of destiny and this amazing road of happy destiny. Work it. You are worth it.